Innovation is a part of our very DNA because it's literally what we as humans tend to do. We kind of instinctively like to create, produce, and then refine until our desired outcome is reached, or we just hit a threshold that results with, well, more innovation. I'd like to think that we are definitely refining right now in cryptocurrency, as kind of pointing to the many adaptations of Satoshi Nakamoto's blockchain protocol should be enough proof. And kind of what I mean by that is the endless alterations and improvements to the design that have spawned entirely new ways to reach consensus, creating new use cases designed to solve real-world issues. Now in comes Cypherium, a protocol that has the markings to become a seriously next-gen cryptocurrency, as it's innovated in a really unique way. By incorporating the old-school advantages of Nakamoto's proof-of-work consensus and adopting another found in modern protocols called hot stuff, what Cypherium has essentially created is a hybrid consensus architecture that decouples the mining process into two separate events, ultimately meaning that there's two blockchains instead of only one, so that decentralization, security, and scalability are naturally baked in. But Cypherium gets a lot more interesting. The network is designed to be incredibly interoperable with both legacy and current distributed networks through its ISO 222 compliant digital currency interoperability framework, or just simply DCIF for short. Now the DCIF, guys, comprises of 4 separate modules, one of which is a notary mechanism called Cypherlink, which is based on XRP's Interledger protocol, connecting siloed networks that lack a seamless interoperability standard, removing the need for intermediaries like Swift and preventing tribalism. Cypherlink also transfers assets immediately and automatically, ensuring that the parties participating in the transaction can see it, making it particularly suitable for banking systems and enterprise use. The other 3 modules are equally as important, comprising of Cypherium Connect, which is a third-party plugin module for banking systems, which ensures KYC and AML standards are applied to transactions. Also Cypherium Validator, which is a verification machine, and Cypherium ID, which is a decentralized ID authentication system. Together, they are intended to replace the legacy interbank communication system used today. Now, one thing you will quickly notice about Cypherium is that it is hyper-focused on interconnecting CBDCs, inadvertently marketing itself as a CBDC superhighway. And kind of while poising itself as a CBDC highway might sound great for potential profits, I do feel absolutely obligated to make one thing very clear. CBDCs are not going to make the world a so-called better place, rather constrict it with more control, which could very well lead to a national or global totalitarian state. YouTube, you can sue me. So guys, I dare say be very careful what you wish for, and that goes for every single cryptocurrency trying to take advantage of or accelerate the CBDC implementation. But look, with that disclaimer out the way, on a technical front, Cypherium does seem crazy awesome, which leads me to wonder why the hell the market cap is only $25 million, at least the time of recording. And look, we will get to some of those theories at the end of the video, but as for right now, let's touch on some of the remaining technical aspects. Now, for one, it's a network that runs the 2 separate consensus algorithms I mentioned earlier, being proof of work and a Byzantine fault-tolerant system, or algorithm, should I say, called hot stuff. Now, the technical word to describe this novel consensus architecture is actually called Cypher BFT, which is the proprietary technology created by Cypherium, making it one of a kind. It's also a layer 1 enterprise-grade permissionless blockchain, meaning it is built for scalability and large business use, allowing pretty much anyone with the right gear to join and contribute to the network. Now, Cypherium is reportedly capable of sustaining 10,000 TPS, has an incredible 90 millisecond finality time, is so secure that it's not 33 nor 51% secure, but a mind-bending 66% secure, and has increased benefits for businesses like cheaper, more lightweight deployment of smart contracts, improved traceability, end-to-end encryption, has an active mainnet, and is already working with enterprise-grade partners. Plus, to truly put the nail in the coffin, Cypherium supports the Ethereum virtual machine, which means any smart contract written in Solidity can be migrated over, while the primary language on this Cypherium virtual machine is, guess what? Java, which is obviously the world's most popular coding language. It's just mind-bending. But guys, as a matter of fact, since we're kind of on the topic of the CVM, Cypherium has used old architecture from actually Google's Android operating systems to run the smart contracts, meaning it assists in enabling the contracts to run on devices like phones and tablets. Can it get any better? So to summarize it in the simplest way possible, imagine being able to pick and choose parts of any hypercar you desire to design your own fully custom hypercar. Now, obviously, given the ability, I guess most people would pick the best out of every option, and that's kind of essentially what these stats look like to me. Like literally, guys, Cypherium has insane stats. But I wanted to just say one thing. While this may all be very possible, I'm going to assume 99.999% of us aren't developers that could confidently do a feasibility test to ensure this actually is possible, because we are talking about a novel consensus structure here, pretty much an overall structure, matter of fact. So take these stats kind of with a grain of salt until Cypherium has proven it can run with zero downtime and the added stress of a growing ecosystem. It's very important you remember that, guys. But look, kind of seeing as I've breached the time limit dedicated for the technical details, we aren't going to dive into how it necessarily works. So overall, based on the information here, I would happily rate Cypherium a 10 out of 10 in the technical department. Although I must say, while they claim their mainnet is complete, we have no way of knowing whether this is simply theoretical or not. And one critique would be the lack of transparency behind the technical writings themselves, as you just simply can't read the white paper because it's structured super confusingly, and there are very limited documents outlining how it actually works, even in a medium to low level way. Now, I like to use the example of having a subscription service that only offers services at $1 or $1,000 with no in between, and that's kind of what the reading experience is in terms of Cypherium's technicals. But now, time for the ecosystem, which, I'll be honest, isn't large by any stretch of the imagination, and it's actually quite worrying because it's been over 2 years since mainnet has launched, and the dApps are very limited, guys. As a matter of fact, to be exact, there's only one. But let's just scrap that for the time being, as I want to mention their partners first, which I found initially quite impressive. If we head over to their ecosystem page, they have listed so-called major partners like Microsoft, Google Cloud, IBM, and AWS, which if you're someone familiar with the world at all, you'll know how insane this lineup really is. Although, if you are like me, you initially take this with a grain of salt because, as we all know, anyone can say anything online, and many projects have done so in the past. A common theme for those of you who don't know in crypto is we either find projects that pretty much lie outright or just exaggerate to make themselves sound better or to trick gullible newbies. So in that case, and knowing this, I decided to just go a little bit deeper, and here's what I found. The Microsoft partnership seems to have a little bit of both. From what is obvious, Cypherium is in a program called Microsoft for Startups, which is simply as the name suggests. Microsoft just helps startups with Azure credits, guidance, development tools like GitHub Enterprise and Microsoft 365, whilst offering some benefits that come from their real Microsoft partners. So this isn't a partner by definition. However, that's not where I've gotten my knickers in a knot. You see, in this statement from Microsoft partnership article, Cypherium states that previously, Cypherium had partnered with the Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing Program to make our enterprise-grade blockchain available to Azure customers as a tech stack solution. This step was taken in tandem with the listings at AWS, Google Cloud, and IBM to demonstrate the power of our network and to highlight our seamless integration with legacy technologies. Now, this does allude to a real partnership, but would you believe, after researching for hours and hours into Microsoft and all the possible avenues of where Cypherium could potentially be integrated, I could not find a single thing that supported this. And to be more specific in regards to AWS, I did find that they were indeed once integrated in the stack. However, as you can see for yourself, they have been removed from the partners page and are no longer available to new customers. So the question begs, why are they still listed as a partner on Cypherium's website? It's kind of a little hypocritical to me, seeing as they made a huge deal about other projects falsely advertising the AWS brand in their article announcing the initial partnerships way back in 2019. Not to mention, the exact same situation has happened with the Google Cloud partnership through Randstad, as the 404 page suggests, and would you believe it's the exact same case for IBM as well. Now look, honestly guys, I would love to mention other partnerships in detail and elaborate on the ones I have mentioned today, but I just simply lack the time. So for kind of like a TLDR, I cannot find anything from Randstad regarding an existing partnership, which would actually make sense because they were leveraging the now non-existent Google Cloud node, as I showed you earlier. Now, I also couldn't find any listing or mention of a partnership on the IC3 website. However, I have been told by a Telegram admin from Cypherium that there is a partnership here, and that it's just taken the back burner in light of their CBDC focus. Also, it appears that they have been taken off the BSN partners page, which we can confirm from this old screenshot here. Now, from what I've been told, since BSN is a Chinese blockchain company, the reason this happened is because China banned networks with their own circulating tokens. So I honestly wouldn't mark them down in this instance. It's pretty fair enough. But as for the so-called FedNow, well, it's simply a service provider showcase where institutions can connect with FedNow adopters based on whether they like what they see. Just, long story short, it's pretty much an institutional Tinder. It really doesn't mean anything is guaranteed or that Cypherium will or won't be adopted at all. Hey guys, Future Kyron talking here. I just want to quickly interject and say this script was written around 6 to 7 weeks ago, and because it was written so long ago, we've had some recent updates that's come to light since I've recorded, okay? So Sky has actually gone into the Telegram chat and announced that they really are actually a FedNow service. They're a service provider, okay? So how they actually are adopted in this little ecosystem is the on and offboarding of assets from the real world between banks, institutions, and things like that into Web3, aka crypto, okay? So this was announced, Sky at least clarified this on Telegram, and this was actually mentioned on their Twitter page as well. And we've got an article from a third-party website saying that Cypherium will be used based on its wallets and on and offboarding into this sort of service, okay? So this has kind of been known for a while now, which is great news, but it's just really important to see it has been confirmed, okay? So I still stand by my statements. This is still institutional Tinder. That doesn't mean any institutions are going to actually want to use Cypherium, and being objective as possible and providing you, my viewers who trust me, my advice and what I'm sort of thinking. I don't really think they will be picked, and that's not to say they won't be picked. I could definitely well be wrong, and for every one of you Cypherium investors, I hope I am wrong to obviously help you guys out, don't get me wrong. But from my instinct, I don't think so, because the ecosystem is lacking, guys. I don't think any sort of institution that is well and truly established will want to risk using Cypherium, which is a novel new technology, and just have a really horrible ecosystem for crypto. There's going to be better alternatives, and that's the way I think they will end up going. So with that said, let's get back to the video. I will also mention the lack of presence within the OMFIF subsidiary, DMI, aka the Digital Monetary Institute, as I cannot find anywhere that Cypherium is still a member. Only a Cointelegraph article mentioning that they were a founding member, which I can verify on your screen right here. One positive thing I definitely will say is that Sky, the founder of Cypherium, has assisted Thomas Moser, who is a member of the Swiss National Bank, to create a paper on the importance of finding the right DLT for a CBDC implementation. So Cypherium was actually mentioned alongside other popular names like Ethereum, Hyperledger, and Quarter, but I want to say there was no clear, this is kind of who we're going with mentioned. It was more so an insightful read into what should be expected from a protocol with a CBDC implementation. And as a matter of fact, it actually is a great read, all things aside. So I would highly recommend you guys set some time to flick through it. The link, of course, will be down below. So to summarize on the partners here, all I can really conclude is that Cypherium is positioning itself next to central banks and large institutions, but we currently have no way of knowing that they are working with any of them for certainty, as even in the best case scenario, there would be an NDA agreement. So even then, we just wouldn't even know. But what does all of this mean to me as an outside investor? Well, it just simply means the opposite of what Cypherium had previously stated in their FPC article, which is where they say, like our partnerships with IBM and AWS, the FPC provides a primary layer of authenticity to our software itself, having met its effectiveness criteria. Since there is obviously no longer a partnership with AWS, IBM, and others on this list, Does that mean that those companies realized Cypherium's network was unauthentic and ineffective? Look, I really don't know, but it's definitely not a good thing. However, with all that said, I must admit they do have an almighty pending agreement with a large Chinese city where Cypherium plans to advance their current blockchain infrastructure. Now, I'm going to butcher this, but the city of Suzhou is apparently one of China's pilot CBDC locations, and Cypherium has secured an MOU, which basically means a non-binding agreement to work together in future. Now, what this means is that Cypherium has their foot in the door, although what it doesn't also mean is that it's secured either, so take this information lightly and do not hold your breath. Now, by their own admission, Cypherium is able to support decentralized applications unlike most, if not all other decentralized networks. However, with a super small dApp ecosystem and such a rich development environment, to me, something just isn't adding up. And kind of what I know personally about ecosystems, I would say that's because of 2, maybe even 3 main reasons. The first being that it is novel tech, meaning it's unproven and businesses won't want to exert time and money into something that might fail. The second is that there is no incentive to want to build on the network, i.e. through grants or a diverse node count. And the third and final is that the team isn't focusing on building the ecosystem in the first place. Now, I think the first and third reasons apply in this case, as the technology is new and therefore unproven, and I think the team is just hyper-focused on CBDCs right now, which means a focus on enterprise and countries, not a so-called puny dApp ecosystem or just dApps at all. So kind of with that all said, there is in fact a single application on the network, which is in fact a DEX called CipherSwap that is similar to Uniswap in very similar ways, in the sense that it works from the same AMM algorithm, but nothing else really stands out to me, so it's really nothing special to discuss. There is also no growth on GitHub, like at all, which at first does seem very concerning. Now, what I was told from the Telegram admin is that the codebase is complete and any new developments are on private repositories relating to work with corporations under NDA agreements, which kind of would make a lot of sense as to why there is limited activity here. Now, it is hard to tell admittedly for sure, as I'm not a developer, so I can't read the code. However, it is logical as the protocol, CVM, and blockchain repositories were all updated last in 2018. So look, I'll be honest guys, I can't say I 100% know for certain what the real truth is here, but I would go out on a limb and say that they probably have completed the code base, since Sky is on a mission to get countries behind Cypherium, and pretty much Amazon never really partners or associates with companies that aren't commercialized. And pretty much I believe this is why we aren't seeing any GitHub activity. But on the flip side, it's quite strange that their marketing strategy is so poor, considering that they don't have to contribute as many resources to completing or refining their code. So I'll just let you guys decide. Now, one quick thing that I would like to also mention is that their transactions on the network are limited to, say, the absolute least. As we can all see from this list, there is barely anyone transacting on the network, which is not a good sign at all, which kind of correlates to the minute trading volume on exchanges being only $155,000 per day at the time of recording. But overall, I'm going to give it a generous 2 out of 10. Again, with no ecosystem growth, uncertified and old partnerships, and a lack of transparency, I think a 2 for now is more than enough. Now, look, I can't even argue that we are necessarily early, as the project has been trading and has a mainnet active for around 2.5 years now. So it would be around this time that I would typically take a look at the tokenomics, but I honestly cannot seem to find accurate information. We're unable to access the tokenomic details from the Cypherium website because they are behind a privacy error, and it is not my responsibility to trust a website that isn't secure. Plus, plain and simply, it just does not look good from an investor standpoint, so I suggest Cypherium attends to this issue immediately. All I could find on the internet was the article on your screen now, written around 2.5 years ago, explaining some of the tokenomics, although the vesting schedule is obviously incorrect. As you can see, the vesting schedule mentions that the 800 million CPH tokens sold in the pre-sales were to vest over a 6-month period, which we know is incorrect because right now there is only 540 million in circulation. Now, since this info obviously was incorrect, I didn't want to leave my answer at simply, I don't know. So I once again reached out to the Telegram admin and he confirmed a few important things. Firstly, it appears that the max supply is definitely 8.42 billion tokens, with the 1.6 billion token discrepancy between the total supply of 6.28 billion being from the miners, as these rewards are yet to begin emitting. Since the network is obviously functioning, these miners are only receiving transaction fees right now as current rewards, so just remember that when the emissions come online, which will mean the network will experience a 5% year-on-year inflation rate. Now, moving on, the team reserve is so large because a large sum of those funds will be given to the central banks and institutions that use Cypherium, and the marketing operations will all depend on when the network needs to use those funds. As the current 540 million tokens in circulation are only a minuscule 6% of the max supply, we have a long way to go until all those 8 billion tokens are in circulation. Now, from what I've been told, there is apparently a burn feature to be implemented on the transaction fees, which I haven't been able to verify in black and white, and what I have read does mention that there was already a burn of over 1 billion tokens pending the equity raised in the funding rounds. Now, overall, admittedly, it is super confusing to try and obtain actual answers in relation to the tokenomics, which again is anything but desirable for an investor. If you're wondering whether I consider any of this information a credible vesting schedule or token distribution, well, the answer is obviously not really. Absolutely nothing I could find proves definitive information relating to Cliff's year-on-year circulating supply estimates, who has access to tokens and when. Plus, the distribution chart seems to be very unorganized with these revisions, and the fact that I needed to spend days communicating back and forth with the Telegram admin obviously is not practical at all, especially because even he was admittedly very confused himself. So look, while I'm not here trying to kill Cypherium with the so-called FUD people like to say, I am simply an investor sharing what I have found with you so that you can go ahead and make judgments yourself. It's literally the same as looking for a business to invest in. You just need to obviously research and kind of based on that research, make a call. And unfortunately, in this case for Cypherium, that call is a big no for now. Now look, I love the idea of the tech, admittedly, but everything else seems off to me, and there is no way I am risking my hard-earned money on this project just yet. Now look, for a project being out for so long, they have a hell of a lot of things so-called coming soon, especially around the technical details of the project, like you're able to see here. Also, they haven't updated their partners list in quite a while, which I highly suggest they do if they're watching this video. And look, after scouring many documents, it appears a lack of punctuation also seems prevalent, which admittedly may seem insignificant to many of you guys. However, it's often the tip of the iceberg for many underlying issues. You can kind of get away with 1 or 2, but when it's 10 or 20, it starts to raise a bit of red flags. Now look, this next part is going to be a bit iffy for me, and I really didn't want to include it, but it does fit in well with what I was saying just moments ago. So look, to assist with providing factual information in each of my videos, I try to reach out to the team of the project to ensure that what I say, especially and pretty much only around the tech and tokenomics, is correct, because that information is obviously set in stone. So as for other information that I collect myself and all opinions, they're still my own, but I just try to provide factual information so you guys can come to the channel expecting 100% true data. And so what I kind of did was reach out to the Cypherium team back in late January, and I actually received a response on the 1st of February. Now, within 4 days, we had messaged each other again. However, after proceeding to press them on the concerns I have laid out in today's video, I have yet to receive a response since the 8th of February, which isn't the best PR move. Now look, admittedly, before you guys get angry with me, at least all you Cypherium fans, I understand that they might be busy, and a large part of me feels extremely bad by essentially airing this out, but I feel like this is a perfect example of why they need to pick up their marketing game, especially since their code base is so-called complete. Now I admit, other projects have done the same, but they usually get back to me within 10 days, and as of recording this video, which was well and truly past the time of recording, writing the script, it's very funny because I reached out to them again as I was writing the script for a 3rd time, and they're still yet to respond to me. And by the time this video goes up, it'll be about an extra 2 weeks. So unless you see any text on screen right now saying that they have indeed responded to me, they haven't, which would mean at least a 6-week radio silence. Now, part of me assumes that they're ignoring me because these claims are true and they don't know how to handle them. But another part of me pretty much also assumes that they're just simply busy. Who honestly really knows, but it's my due diligence to you guys, the community who does not have time to do what I do as a full-time job, to remind you to please press Teams on all the issues you have, even if it's just an email or in the Telegram or in the Discord. Do not just take what they say as final. Remember, guys, ask questions because you might just be able to uncover their true agenda. But look, do not be surprised to see the project do somewhat well in the 2025 bull market, because after all, memetics is a #1 reason most cryptocurrencies go up in price. And if you want proof, just take a look at Doge, Shiba Inu, and the remainder of the Moon meme coins. If you don't know much about memetics, don't worry, I do go over them in previous videos and I will in the future. However, there is a chance I am totally wrong here, and in that case, it would actually make me flip completely bullish. But again, that's a huge if. In any case, take all my information with a grain of salt and be sure to do your own research before making any investment decisions. And in any case, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all take care. Like, subscribe for all my hard work, and let me know what you think of Cypherium down below. Until next time, bye.